Welcome to episode 87 of the Kids with Big Emotions podcast, formerly known as Calm Nights, Strong Days. I am your host, Andi Clark, and we are breaking up our executive functioning series because I had to put this episode in here. Christmas is coming, holidays are coming, Hanukkah, whatever festivities that you have coming up. This is a busy, busy month, and it affects not only our kids, but also us as adults. The outbursts, the meltdowns, the anxiety, the overexcitement, overstimulation, all of these things are tenfold this month with our kids and possibly ourselves as well. We're also navigating this with our kids and navigating so much in our environment that this is a huge month for burnout for parents. And my hope with this episode today is to be able to help you navigate the season much easier. So let's dive into this episode. The holiday season, as I just said, can be overwhelming for neurodiverse kids and their families. The sensory overload, oh my gosh, like tenfold. It can be another dimension depending on certain events that you do go to, depending on how your family celebrates. The social expectations, very tough, especially when your child, I know myself, I don't fit into a box with a lot of the social expectations of how holidays should go. There's a lot of disruptions to routines that can lead to anxiety and emotional spirals. Even kids who love the excitement, they tend to struggle because they're going into this overstimulation, which might be a struggle for them, or all of a sudden the end. So they're at this amazing event, having the time of their lives, surrounded by people that they love to be around. And they're in this energy, which is just amazing. And then they go home and they're bored and there's nothing to do. And they start having outbursts at home because of that down, because they don't know how to work with the downtime. Whereas there's the other kids that need that downtime, sometimes even placed in the events and the activities that you're doing. So totally different kids, but the neurodiversities of it, the ways that their brains work, still require a lot of thought, consideration, planning, organization from you in order to help you navigate it the best, as well as our kids. And the pressure. There are so many social expectations to create like this quote unquote perfect holiday, which creates so much stress and guilt when things don't go smoothly. I know for me, with blending families, my family has been so casual about holidays. I mean, my parents are snowbirds, so we'll often do Christmas in October before they leave, or the beginning of November. My mom will decorate the tree with like ghosts and pumpkins. It's hilarious. We might carve pumpkins, and it may snow up here as well. Sometimes end of October, beginning of November, sometimes we get an odd snowfall, and we might make snowmen, right? Or we might, just be out playing in the snow, tobogganing, if there's enough. And it's just so much fun, like doing it end of October, beginning of November, separate from everything else that happens at Christmas time. My kids remember it. They remember who it's all from. That we've just been so casual, and they've just worked it around my husband's schedule, because my husband does work a lot of weekends. And it's just been, let's do it when we can do it. Let's do it when it's less stressed, right? And my mom's usually they're going down south. So my mom's usually cleaning out a freezer. And so it's a hodgepodge of all of these slow cooker meals put together. She's made all of these like containers of all of these foods and meats and cooked things. So we go home with like a freezer full of prepared foods. It's amazing, but nothing that's your traditional Christmas stuff. It's awesome. We love it. And so then when I married into the family, and actually my in-laws, their culture hasn't been to really celebrate Christmas much. So that was pretty low key. And then a sister-in-law came in who loves Christmas, like loves holidays. Everything's big, big, big. And I was like, I can't do this. Oh my gosh. Like it was just my anxiety kicked in, my overwhelm kicked in. It's just crazy. It is fascinating too when you start blending families. And for her, I bet the thought of me wanting this low key, like no present, low present, hardly any present Christmas, just very calm, you know, not going crazy with the foods, all of these things probably gave her a heart attack and her anxiety, right? It just is fascinating how what we envision, what we like for Christmas, we do. I guess sometimes there's this expectation for things to be so big around Christmas. And when we're not people that like it, both parties struggle with that vision. It is fascinating. And hopefully today we can give you a lot of different strategies and things that you can work on. And if anything, help you see that it's okay to be different and it's okay to do what works for you and your family, even if others don't understand. So with us as well, with having these neurodiverse kids and me, like this is, I'm seeing now that I'm learning all about, executive functioning and neurodiversities and seeing all this through my child. I'm like, oh, this is me too. So it's possible that you as the parent also may feel some of these things as well. But the executive functioning challenges, like difficulty transitioning between activities, handling unexpected interruptions, like it's just fascinating how I always grew up where we would go to the house and everybody would be playing games and interacting with each other. And I would go to the in-laws and they're in the kitchen with the door closed, cooking and not letting anybody help while we're sitting by ourselves in the other room. Like just so different, right? And that was normal for my husband. So it is so fascinating when we look at the executive functionings, we look at cognitive thinking, transitions and changes. And I was like, that I now know stressed me out so much because it wasn't in my mind, in my bandwidth of that this is what happens and this is their normal. And I really, really, really struggled with being different from my framework, my way of doing things. And that cognitive inflexibility, black and white thinking, I had my vision of how it should be done. And because it wasn't doing my way, it stressed me out. It really did. And I've worked on that, gone through it, understood that was like my inflexible thinking, black and white, cognitive flexibility. And I've really worked a lot on that stuff. And it is amazing that now we go over and we enjoy ourselves. And nutritional stress too. We have, well, for me, so there is a lot of sugar, there's dyes and colorings, there's different meals. Gluten affects my moods, my energy, my ability to think, my brain fog. Dairy affects my gut. And then I do have other foods that I don't actually put into my diet because of how it makes me feel, but I don't even think about it. And then I go to others' houses and I'm like, oh, it hits me so hard. And my one son as well, that going to these places like dyes and coloring for him, just through the roof, like instant rage. We will see changes in him so much. And gluten used to, but it's fascinating because we're actually going on vacation next week. And normally I'm packed like all kinds of desserts, gluten-free desserts that he can have because there's usually nothing other than jellos and stuff on a resort that are non-gluten-free or dairy stuff. And he can't have either. And the jello on the resort, like his skin all breaks out and the rage, the anger that comes out of him. And we've been saying that recently, though, he's been doing really well with gluten. He actually was out with his friends. He's old enough. His one friend was ordering a sub at Subway and they didn't have gluten-free. And he had an awkward moment of feeling embarrassed that he ended up just like, he didn't want to say, okay, no, thank you, and walk away. So he ordered a gluten sub and he came home and he enjoyed every single moment of it. And he was okay. He was okay that day. He was okay the next day. Normally the next day he'd be a mess and he wasn't. So we're seeing that as we've worked so much on his stress system, we've worked on his gut, we've worked on so many things that the foods that used to really affect him and I used to stress over at holiday events and all of that stuff, because it's so hard when all these other kids are eating candy around him and he either has it and then I'm dealing with a meltdown and rage and anger, or he doesn't have it, and I'm feeling guilty because I'm saying no to my child when all of these other kids are having this. There's just so much that goes on for me. I have a lot of, I guess, traumas and stuff around nutrition, or I had, that I have really dealt with. But this can be something when you have a child that's very, very, very affected by foods, like my child and I, one child and I are. There's also like the lack of sleep. My other child really needs his sleep, like really needs his sleep. That my in-laws do know that we leave at a certain time. It's interesting because we're the family that lives the closest to their house. We are 10 minutes away. And we leave like an hour, sometimes 2 hours before them. And they have still another hour drive. And their kids are younger than our kids, but we need to get home because we know that our one child needs his sleep. He needs it. And he's not going to do well, and he's not going to enjoy himself anymore. And it's not the kind of environment where he'll just go up into a bed and sleep there. So we do leave. And that's the thing. I know that our family is different. And I used to really, really, really struggle with the fact that we had to make different choices and people didn't understand. And I would feel all the guilt because I'm empathic, where I feel others' energies, and I would feel their judgment and feel their guilt. And I've had to really work on that, really blocking those energies and just being okay with choosing what works best for my family and being okay with that. And I found that when I own it, they actually judge less. And when I don't make a big deal about it, they judge less. So it's just been fascinating. And like, our kids do not fit in a box. They don't. These are unique thinkers. And these are the kids that if we teach them to work within the world, this world, in a way that works for them, to step into their superpower and to own their differences, to own these neurodiversities, to own that, yeah, maybe certain foods do cause outbursts in them that don't in other kids. That's fine, because you're this kid that is going to change the world because of the way that you do think different, and the way that your brain thinks different, and the way that you need things differently is going to have you change this world. These kids are going to change the world if we empower them, really empower them to believe in themselves and believe in their differences and own them and be okay with them and be okay with the other people's differences. That's part of that cognitive flexibility of the executive functioning. And I did not have that for most of my life. I will totally say I judged everybody who was not living life the way I lived it. And now I see that it is so different. And I'm owning the way that I need to live for me to be okay, to be healthy, to be happy every day. And I own that other people have their way of doing it as well. And that's okay. So let's start diving into strategies. We often get into this feeling like we have to say yes to every event, especially if it's family stuff, that there might be a lot of different family events, especially when you have blended families. There's a lot of events, a lot of things happening. There's work parties. My husband's work party, it's kind of cool. It's at the exhibition. It's inside. It's too cold here to be outside. It's all carnival rides, all these blow up castles. It's petting zoos. It's crazy. And it's just kids screaming all the time. There's cotton candy machines, candy apples. You just walk up to any of these booths and you grab, everything's free. You just walk into this building. The kids under like 12 get a free gift. There's Santa to sit on Santa's lap and get pictures, all of this stuff. And it's tons of fun, but we don't go every single year. And it depends on what's happening on the next day, because we know the kids are going to be a mess. All of this stuff we pick and choose. What should we, what can we, what works in our schedule? And the thing is that it's okay to skip some of these guilt-free. It's okay to say no. And if you start thinking about this rephrasing, is if I say yes to this, what am I saying no to? Is I saying no to my child having meltdowns? If I say yes to this, I'm saying no to my child having a calm nervous system that they need to recover. If I say yes, I'm saying no to my family's health and the needs of my child first. That's some things. There's other things that, it really is a good thing to say yes to. Or if you play it the opposite, if I say no to this, I'm saying yes to us actually having a calm day with my family to recharge for the party the next day. Or because we had a party the night before, I'm saying yes to us being able to recover from the party the night before that was more important for us to go to. So it's really important for you to make sure that what you are saying yes to are your top priorities. If you go and look at all of the things that are your possibilities, sometimes taking rain checks and saying, can we do it in January? Or, changing it, moving it to a day that really does work for you. It's okay to move dates. It's okay to ask for something else. And it's okay for them to say that they can't. And it's okay for you to ask. Really focus on what are the things in your calendar that are important. If you start putting them in the calendar, you'll start seeing where they are and you'll be like, oh, these ones are back to back. I don't know if we can handle this. Or you might also have a child that loves the stimulation, that loves the parties, that loves that. And then you'll notice, well, we do a party on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're going to really struggle with that downtime. And I'll work into a strategy for that as well coming up. So it's really important as well to build in downtime after overstimulating events to allow for recovery for the kids that need it. There's also the kids too that struggle with the downtime because they get their energy from people. They get their energy from being around tons of people, tons of energy, tons of excitement. That's what thrives them. And then the after is hard. So with either of these kids, the one that needs the downtime or the one that struggles with the downtime, what is really, really, really important ahead of time is visualizing it with them. With the child that loves the excitement, loves the stimulation, have them visually imagine the next day. What is that day going to look like? And talk them through all the emotions. How's it going to feel to not have all those people around? What can you do instead to help you? Start creating a visual plan while you're reflexively questioning this person. Reflexively questioning is asking questions that helps them reflect on this situation. So it's going to be pretty quiet in the house the next day. And you know that it's really important for me after a big event like that to have quiet downtime, but I know that it's tough for you. How are you going to feel? And what can we do to help you feel better during that time? Could we have a planned movie that you're going to watch? Could one of your friends comes over and hangs out with you while you play with your friend while I get the downtime that I need? And what's going to happen when you need things? Maybe you can help out because you're going to have more energy than I will. Maybe you can help out with the lunch. What can you do to help prep and prepare and plan lunch? What can we do? What foods can we get ahead of time so that you can make us all something? They can spend like an hour making lunch and then cleaning it up while you're relaxing. If that's prepared ahead of time, if that's a child that has more energy, needs more things to do, needs to stay busy, and doesn't want to just rest and recharge like you may need. So it's really important to visualize this with the child. For a child that struggles with the actual events, is talking to them about, okay, we're going to be going and there's going to probably be a lot of kids there that are going to be running around and playing. What do you envision yourself doing? And they might say they want to just be in a corner reading a book. I'm like, okay, what do you want with you? What books do you want? So we should have those packed. Do you want certain headphones so that you can't hear all of the noise all the time? Do you want certain snacks? They might have food that you're really going to love, but what if they don't? Should we bring some snacks? What snacks do you want? You can go somewhere and have them pick out the snacks that they want. And they can sit in the corner with their headphones on and read their book that might have really nice music that they like or listen to a podcast anytime that they need the downtime. And you can also walk through visually with them, playing with the kids and doing things. And you might have a child as well that maybe thinks different, maybe just wants to do math. Maybe they want to do science or something. Depending on the kids that are there, you can maybe find some really cool science experiment that you could do that makes some sort of fizzy treat for the kids or some fun thing that you could do and bring some of these kids into this fun science project without them really knowing it's a science project. You can say, not all these kids like science because of the name science. So let's just call it something else. And let's see if we can get them into it. So that way you can bring that neurodiversity of your kid into the thing that you're doing and make it fun with the other kids. You can find really out of the box ways to bring these other kids into this. And not all the kids are going to want to, and that's totally fine. But it does help your child find ways to maybe blend in a little bit and then go off and do their own thing. And then after that, they can go and watch their own science videos or something. They can go and watch like a whole YouTube channel on math if they want. I've got tons. I have an episode. If you go to my homeschooling episode, I'll have my spreadsheet there, and I've got like a whole bunch of YouTube podcasts that are all science, that are math, that are all kinds of different subjects, that kids history, that kids can just dive into if they want to get like here. If you're finding that these kids aren't diving enough into history and all that, how about we bring this video in your headset and you can go and do it for like 20 minutes or a half hour to give yourself that break that you need from the kids. And then you go back to the kids. So you can start figuring out ways to get them to go back and forth. You can have a code word with your kids. A certain thing that, they tap you in a certain way that is when they need to go around the block or need to get to go somewhere that's quieter or less stimulating. And you can have these certain things with your kids to allow them and help them understand that certain people need to recharge. And certain people get recharged by this, and help them actually see the kids that get recharged by this. And maybe you can also find other kids that need the breaks. And maybe you can actually invite one of those kids to go for a walk with you around the block where they get out of the noise, out of the commotion, and you can walk around the block and have a really calm chat, find out maybe what this other kid is into as well. And then you can start finding that even in a crowd, a more introverted, neurodiverse child that maybe needs a little more separation may be able to find somebody in that crowd as well that needs the same thing, and they can start teaching them how to do that as well. And if they can teach somebody and see that somebody feels so much relief from being taught that they can get those moments of those breaks and it's okay, it starts helping them feel normal. It normalizes it for them and helps it feel accepted, and learning that other people are out there just like them. So it really, it's just really giving them what they need. The connection with the people who get your child and create low social opportunities is really where we can focus, right? Really where you can focus is which events are really going to get my child. And if you have to go to one family event where they really do not get your child, empower your child to be unapologetically themselves. If they want to go up to a room and watch science or watch math, or they want to pull out a whiteboard, you can bring a whiteboard and do math problems with them, right? The whole night. They can keep bringing you the whiteboard. You can keep writing a thing on it, and they can go somewhere else and do it and come back and embrace it. Anybody says anything, you can just, in a very positive way, unapologetically say, they are so happy. I am so glad that everybody here is accepting them for who they are, and you're making them feel included. Thank you so much for helping him be so happy here in his happy place. And when you do that, it helps them see it from a different point of view as well. Although there will still be people that will judge, and that's their struggles when they're judging. One thing too is really helping them anticipate transitions and really visualize the schedule. So you can go through this calendar. I know my one son is always like, okay, what are we doing tomorrow? What's the plan? What time are we doing this thing? He needs to know for certain things. So if we are going to a party, it's like, okay, we're going at this time. And he's usually like, when are we leaving? And what are we doing there? And I'll have to give him well, we're going to aim for this time, but if they don't have the dinner served in time and this is late, then we will have to leave a little bit later. And this is what we can do if this happens. So I start giving him solutions if certain things happen in order to be able to help him with that. You can also create a menu of calming activities that they can choose from. Things they want to read, certain toys that they want, watching a movie, going into another room, say it's at grandma's house, Maybe there's a certain room at grandma's house that you get set up all for them. You can even create it like a fort. Like at grandma's house, you can have one room that you create a fort in a corner of the room, bring some chairs in, build it all up like a special fort, have a flashlight in there. And that's their special spot whenever they need a break. And they always know that they have that spot at grandma's house or at their aunt's house or wherever. That helps them every time that they go there. They know that when they need their downtime, there's already space for them because it's normal and they understand and respect that that's what that child needs. Helping a parent project calm and confidence. This is a really tough one. Oh man, like your child's having a meltdown. They're yelling in the middle. They're yelling at you or yelling at somebody else at these events. And as we've spoke of before, the older style of parenting, which most of our family members still haven't transitioned from, they're still in that old way of you respect your elders, you respect what somebody's telling you. If somebody says stop it, you stop it, without them understanding that this child may struggle with inhibition, with being able to pause and think about something, even though they know the consequence. They're not pausing enough to think about the consequence to be able to stop an action. So they might get into things. They might say things to other people. They might hit or yell or scream. They may not be able to modulate their voice very well and be yelling loud all the time. They might have such inflexible thinking that they struggle with rules. They may be so competitive, yet have perfectionism and have major meltdowns in games with their cousins or friends. There's so much that can happen with the executive functioning side. They may be so lost in their world and in this whole imaginary thing that they're not even noticing what other people are doing or needing or wanting around them. They may be monopolizing something, and their perception is that they're not perceiving that other people want to play with what they're playing with as well. They're not paying attention to it, and they're not inhibiting themselves enough to stop and go, oh yeah, I should share. And there can cause so many issues. And the way that you're going to handle it, now that you understand a lot of this, now that you understand as well more that I've talked about earlier about stress systems and how to really co-regulate with your child, that if you escalate yourself, you yell, you scream, you get mad with them, it actually amps them up more. If you're calm, if you're breathing calmly, if you're listening to everything they're saying and you want to hear their side and you're compassionately and empathetically listening to them, listening to, even if it's a very black and white version of what's happening and their side is so one-sided, you're still listening to them and giving them the respect and the time to get everything off of their chest, everything out that they need to get out. You may be knelt down at their level. You may be holding them while they're screaming and having a meltdown, and people could be judging you. And when people judge, it's because they have yet to learn when somebody is screaming and yelling that it's their nervous system is completely dysregulated, and it's dysregulated because of something that's going on mentally, physically. With neurodiverse kids, the executive functioning system just gets taxed so much. They may have traumas. Their nervous system may not be strong enough to be able to stop them from going into those states frequently. There's so many reasons. And when we judge that somebody should not be feeling the way that they feel, that somebody should not be reacting the way that they're reacting, it's because they have not yet had the lessons in their life to understand more of what somebody's really going through, and that somebody's actions are dictating how they're truly feeling in that moment, and understanding how to help them work through it. And the fact that you are listening to this tells me right now that you are somebody that is either working on that or has worked through it. I know it's taken me years to stop judging. I used to judge parents all the time for the way that they parented, all the time. And now I have to take that step back and know that every parent is doing the best that they can, and they're parenting the best way that they know how. So if somebody's judging me, I know that it's because they have things to work on. They have things that they have not worked on to understand where I'm at with my child, or they may not understand my child. And that's okay. They're on their own journey. I am not judging them for the fact that they haven't gotten to my judgment yet. I've also worked on a lot of my parts in my IFS, internal family systems therapy, which I'm a trauma-informed coach through them. And through working with my parts that used to feel judged by parents, my parts that used to feel really embarrassed when a parent would judge me, or embarrassed or hurt. I've worked on those parts that I don't feel those things anymore. I'm not triggered by other parents doing that. So if you are, know that there's things that we can do to help you with those triggers, so that when your mom is snickering or making a comment or giving you just a small look with their eyes, when you're doing something with your child that lets you know that they don't approve of how you're handling it, it's not going to trigger you, and you can continue doing what you're doing. Continue working with your child. You know your child best. You know what helps and works with your child best. And you step into that power, and these other people don't. They don't affect you anymore. They don't trigger you anymore the way that they may have in the past, once you work on those parts of you as well, and truly understanding your child and what they need, and knowing that if they're yelling at you, it's them getting that cortisol out, it's getting that energy out. And they're telling you all their thoughts and feelings. And maybe it's with a really loud voice. If they're yelling and saying, they did this and I'm feeling this and blah, 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 and I hate you, and, and you're a horrible mom, and they're getting all their thoughts and feelings out, and they're actually speaking to you. And that's huge. And once they get it all out, then they can sit in your arms and cry. And then once they're regulated and you're regulated, you can talk about this. But yelling at them with the old way of punishment in the past will shut them down. It will stop that conversation, and your child will stop letting you in more and more and more. So yeah, it's really, really, really hard when people do have these judgmental comments. You know that you can develop those skills and tools to work through it. If you're not there yet, know that there are ways to do it, and do your best. Do your best. That's it. It's all we ask of any parent at any point in time, is do the best with the tools that you have right now. And I know that if you're going to do your best with the tools you have right now, that you're going to continue to get more and more tools under your belt to help support you and help support your child through the holidays. It's really so important staying grounded during public meltdown, even when others are criticizing you, and to empower your child to navigate social scenarios. They might need the tools for regulation, headphones, fidget tools, food, snacks, quiet zones. They might need strategies after to handle those downs. You can start giving that to that child and letting them know that this is okay. This is who they are, and own it. Because I know for me, I was not given those tools, and I was not felt to own it and accept it. Instead, I felt ashamed for how I felt, and like I was wrong and bad, and I hid it and kept everything aside. And I'm sure that's happened to many of you as well. It's okay to be introverted, and it's okay to crave those one-on-one, really deep conversations with people, and not like surface conversations with big groups. That's okay. We still have to go to big groups all the time. Not all the time, sometimes. We choose when, we choose how, and we choose to make it the best that we can for us, owning who we are as people. And the more that you own who you are, the more you're showing your child that, and you're giving them the power to step into who they are as well, and own it, and be absolutely okay with when they need downtime, when they need the excitement, how they're handling things, and teaching them how to handle things better and better as time goes on. Another thing as well for Christmas is the black and white thinking, kids who don't like surprises. I'm like this. I don't like when somebody just randomly, that's not all the time. There are times where I absolutely love when a friend has gifted me something, when I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, they know me. They know me so deeply. They know me so intently with what they just got me. Like, just amazing. Like, seriously, my birthday was once, and my neighbors gave me Green Beaver mouthwash and I think it was their dental floss. Totally toxin-free mouthwash and dental floss. I'm like, oh my God, you guys know me. I was so excited, because I don't use toxins in any of the products that I use. And it's just like, it does, when somebody does buy me something, some lotion or some nice thing, and as soon as it's got toxins, I know I'm not going to use it. It affects me. It really does. It's something where my body cannot handle them. So I do not put them in my body. And my one son's the same. It's just how we are. And there's nothing wrong with it. But when I find that like I get gifts by people where they feel like obligated to get me a gift, and it's not the exact thing I want, it might be similar to what I want, but not the exact one I want, then I feel bad returning it and getting the actual thing that I want. That I would honestly rather, this may sound horrible to some of you, that gifts is your love language and you love getting gifts of any gifts from any people and that fills your bucket. Gifts are not my love language. And it's more quality time and conversations, that if somebody in a conversation has learned enough about me to gift me something that tells me that they listened to me, that means the world to me. But I don't expect gifts and I don't need gifts. I need somebody's ear in a conversation because that's my love language, how I fill my bucket. So love language is a big thing. You may have a kid that just love any and all gifts because gifts is their love language, and kids that aren't. My one child likes to know some of his gifts and loves the surprises of them. He's like, just surprise me. He's happy with anything. My other child needs to know the exact thing that he's getting, like me. And so I let him pick out his exact gifts. I let him wrap his gift. He knows for a month or 2 weeks or however long that gift has been under the tree, he knows exactly what it is. And that kid is so excited, building up that anticipation to open up this gift that he knows that is going to be the exact thing that he wants under the tree. And yeah, he's just so super excited for it. And that brings him joy. So that is where I let him absolutely pick out his gift. Whereas my other son likes part of the surprises. I like to pick out my own gifts under the tree. Like if I ask for slippers, I want the exact slippers that are going to feel that when I step in them, how they're going to feel for me. I need them all a certain way. And this is part of my neurodiversity. This is something you'll learn about me too, that I dive deep into every single subject. So if I want a pair of slippers, I'm going to research slippers for the toxin levels. I'm like, I want something that's non-toxic. I want something that, is going to be ergonomic. Ergonomic, is that the word? It's going to be physically very good for my body, that it's going to not, this is going to work with my muscles in the right way. All of this stuff is going to be durable, all of these things. So I need to research it so that I know that I'm getting the right one, because I dive deep into anything that I really want. And it's really important to me to have all of the ticks checked in order for me to buy it, because I just don't buy things to have them in the house. I don't like to accumulate a lot of things. So it's just fascinating, like how we are all different as people. And I know I own that now. Like that is something that I own. Whereas I used to feel bad saying to people, like if they really want to buy me something, I'll be like, you don't have to. Because I am very specific about what I want and how I want it. And I usually just get myself that own thing. If gifts are your love language, I can tell you exactly the one and the type that I want, that you can get that for me. But honestly, I would more rather just have your conversation. That's going to fill my bucket. And that's how I'm going to feel the most love from you. And that would be the best gift for me. I will own it because that's who I am. And everybody is different. So owning your child, like letting them be them. My one child does not like the surprises. He likes to know what's happening, what's going on, which part of that is part of the cognitive flexibility, which I've worked on as well, but also like some of my values. Toxin-free, environmental friendly. I'd rather buy used if it's going to have like plastics and stuff in it, so that I'm not, paying a factory. Like there's so many things that go in towards a lot of this stuff. And it's really understanding that person. If your child is very specific about what they want, let them pick. It's okay. It's just, it honestly makes my son so much happier. And really addressing a lot of their executive functioning challenges at the start. Give them checklists, give them visual guides. As I said earlier, helping them visually understand what the person's house is going to look like, what people are going to be there, what food might be there or not. And if it's not, why don't we bring some of the food that you want? Like really visualizing it with a child that that struggles with change and transitions and understanding, helping them take in as much as they can before can really be amazing. My one son, the amount he takes in visually is unbelievable, that going into a new space can be so overwhelming for him, that if he just has a picture of like somebody's living room or dining room, can really help him already put that in his brain. So when he's going into the house, and honestly, from the picture, he'll remember where everything is and everything and all of the different faces that we would be seeing before we go. It really does help him. And it sounds so silly, but his visual memory is so much that it can overwhelm him going into a new space with so many faces, so many new things, that if you can help his visual get already some of that information input into it already before they go, it can really help with their anxiety. Making sure you bring weighted blankets, headphones, anything that's really going to help them. Snacks, food, water bottle, their favorite music, their favorite like books, anything, their favorite toy that really does help. And then when you go there, make sure that there is a designated space for them to unwind, bring themselves down. The thing too about like going for walks, having that code word when they want to go for a walk, maybe finding another child, like I had said, here in Canada too, I'll bring their snowsuit, I'll bring toboggans, we'll have like some crazy carpets in the car, they don't take up a lot of space. And I may like, or just a snowball fight, whatever, we'll go outside and just go play in the snow, go build something. It changes their state. It gets them physically getting a lot of the energy and anxiety out so that they can then go back in the room, that it allows them to process everything that they just saw and experienced in that room, which goes with that visual of some of these kids just being so visually ahead. I know this is a big one for autism too. So like with autism, they see so much, like every like wrinkle, smile, like the amount of stuff they see in someone's face, which is why they don't always look in faces. So if you go into a room and maybe tell them that you'll go in for a little bit and then together you'll leave and outside so that they can process everything that they just saw. And then when they're ready, you go back in, but you can like go play, go for a walk around the block, go to a playground down the street, bring a ball and throw a ball if the backyard's big enough at somebody's house, if it's not snowing, like figure out some sort of activity or thing that you can do with that child, or go outside and do math questions on a piece of paper, right? Whatever works for that child, you go and you do, to get them out of that environment, to bring them back in once their sensory has calmed down a little bit and processed everything from that situation. Now, here's something important too, is not to forget about yourself. You are super important. Set boundaries for yourself. You don't have to stay as long as other people stay. You don't have to go when everyone goes, or you go earlier. If you go earlier than other people so that it's quiet, and as people trickle in, your child or yourself can get used to the new faces, the new people, the new smells. Smells a big one for me. There's a lot of fabric softeners and stuff on them. Like I really struggle. So letting them know. Hugs is a big one for me too with all the fabric softeners. I do like hugging people, but I can't smell all of the fabric softeners and stuff on their clothes. So that's where I'm starting to only recently just own up to it and say, hey guys, like depending on if I don't go to hug you, it's because I can't handle the smells at that moment. Don't take it personally. I can't handle the fabric softeners and laundry soap smells on you. And it will totally, drain my energy for the rest of the event. So I'm starting to own that and just be like, this is just what it is. And if they aren't okay with it, that's fine. But at least they're not taking offense to me not hugging them, which has happened to me in the past and has caused a lot of misunderstandings. For you as well, step away when you need. With my husband and I, if I need to go for a walk, I'll be like, hey, I'm going for a walk by myself. I will sometimes just put on my earbuds and a podcast, or I'll put on binaural beats to help to, calm my brain. I will maybe go sit outside and do a breathing session. I will go in the car sometimes and just, drive down the block and park somewhere and do a breathing session in the car if I don't even feel like doing it in the driveway. But sometimes I'll just do it in someone's driveway or down the street. Take the time that you need for you. Make sure that you are well fed before you even go, because you never know when somebody will be feeding you, don't know what the food will be. That if you go with yourself also having an empty or a full stomach, you'll feel better. Make sure you have enough water to hydrate you. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're okay too. And really just make sure you're taking care of yourself. You guys are all important. The holiday season really is this chance to create a unique, joyful experience that's completely tailored to your family. Your amazing neurodiverse family. If you change the focus on creating this environment that your child feels safe and supported and engaged in activities the way they genuinely enjoy, where your expectations are realistic, where everybody's able to recover from the excitement, you can redefine your holiday success where your child can thrive, where you can thrive. It's so important to allow our kids to step into their superpower. We do have to create those environments for them. And it does mean that we need to change sometimes the way things have been done, which is never easy, but man, is it worth it when you figure out the right way to do it. So really help these kids highlight their unique approach to the world during the holidays, outside of the holidays, and let them know that's what makes them extraordinary. Your neurodiverse child is destined to think differently because we need them to make a difference in this world. And you can start by changing the way that the holidays are for them. All right. Oh man, this was an episode I so needed to do. And I'm so grateful I did it. I would love to know what your thoughts are, what your questions are. Definitely reach out to me, support@andiclark.com. My information is all below. Reach out to me. I'm here to support you however I can. Reach out if you have any questions. Enjoy your holidays. Step into your superpower. Let your kids step into theirs. And I am always an email away. I would love to hear from you, love to hear how your holidays go, love to hear anything about you. We have the support circle that I invite you to with other parents just like you. Come and join us where we will be working on more and more and more skills and tools to be able to help not only your child, but you as well. All right. I will see you in the next episode.